Do you find yourself overwhelmed when you look at your task list for the day? Do you just, you look at them and it's like you try to get some done, but they're like little hydras, and every time you chop one up and you finish one off, you cross one out, feels great, but then you got three more added? It's very overwhelming, isn't it? Well, one of the things to help, avoid becoming overwhelmed is to manage your time properly. Now, I do want to put a disclaimer on this video in that all overwhelm is created equal and not all overwhelm is going to be solved with these tips. But these tips will help you if you have an issue with specifically time management in terms of overwhelm. So let's dive right into it. So the first tip I have for you in terms of managing overwhelm in terms of time management is you do the one thing priority. And that is that you look at your task list and you pick the single most important task that you need to complete each day. And then you go through your list and you label those. So you would label them 1, 2, and 3 as an example. And so then you would do them. You do the task priority 1 first, task priority second, and task priority third, the 3. So the reason that this is good is because what you can do is you can separate it out and you can put different parts of the tasks into those subtask categories. Because sometimes what happens when we get overwhelmed is, let's say my list is, buy groceries, pay my bills, and I don't know, pick up the dry cleaning, right? So each of those tasks, may not seem overwhelming in and of themselves, but once you add up the fact that I've got to go do groceries, go to a different place to pay my bills, and then go through traffic again to pick up laundry at the dry cleaners, it can get a little overwhelming because my brain is going through, okay, well, how am I going to do that? Go back here, go back there, and then pick up everything else on time, right? So that's why you want to pick the single most important task each day and you want to knock that one out first. Now, I'm not going to go too much into prioritization in this video just for the sake of time. But, there are different ways that you can prioritize the tasks. One of them is by doing a brain dump. Another one is by, seeing which one's gonna move the needle on your big goal. And again, if you don't have a big goal or if it's difficult to figure out what's gonna move the needle on your big goal, then you'll do the single most important task off your to-be list. And the to-be list is the subject of another video. So, be sure to check that one out as well when you get a chance. So by picking out the single most important tasks each day, you'll be able to eliminate the overwhelm because overwhelm does often come from a place of uncertainty to some extent as well. Now, the second tip is something that honestly I haven't been great at. I'm still learning to put in buffer time. Buffer time is super important. I generally try to give myself at least 15 minutes of buffer time between each task. And that's if I'm working from home. Okay, that just to be fair, that's if I'm sitting here and I'm working from home. If I am doing errands like buying groceries or going to pay my bills or going to pick up dry cleaning, I am going to put in more buffer time for that. Now, let me try and help you alleviate some overwhelm with your buffer time. Okay, because what tends to happen is that we can have some time blindness or we can have time distortion. This is especially true if you have ADHD. Time blindness is a real thing. So one of the things that you can do is if you know roughly how long it takes you to do each task, great, double it. And then add 15 minutes after between the next task. Now, doubling may sound a little excessive, but trust me, especially on tasks that happen outside the house, when you have travel time involved and when you've got waiting time involved, when you've got so many of these other variables involved, you want to give yourself as much leeway as possible. And buffer time does that. Let me give you a real life example that I took out of my project management days. So, out of the project management days, what I would do when we were doing web development projects is I'd go to the developer and say, okay, these are the requirements. How long is it going to take you to do? Developer comes back and says, great, it's going to take a week and a half. So I go back to the client and say, okay, it's going to take about 3 weeks. And the reason I do this is because, especially in the web development world, we know that we overestimate or we underestimate things all the time. So I just try to give a buffer there, right? Or how about this? Let's say that you're having sales calls, discovery calls, or otherwise you're following up with leads on a sales call. So if you have back-to-back sales calls, you literally have zero time to prepare from person A to person B. And that doesn't feel very good. And it is very overwhelming. the more things that you have literally back to back, the more overwhelmed that you're generally going to feel. This is why call centers are some of the worst jobs in the world for stress because we used to call it in the industry green time. And green time in General Electric was literally less than a second. It was boom, 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 boom. I mean, there were days when you would take 400 calls. Yes, 400, literally. No time, no space between those calls. It was awful. I mean, is it any wonder that the drug use rates and the alcoholism rates and the escapism rates and burnout rates are so high there? So please, if you have the ability to do so, add at least 5 minutes of buffer time between tasks that you're doing. I would recommend at least 15. But I mean, if you can't do any more, then try and at least do 5 because in 5 you can at least do a little bit of a reset. And I'm doing this because I'm going to show you that the quick reset hack that takes 20 seconds in your brain. But I'm going to show that in a different video. Now, the next last tip I have for you today, which is really going to help you with overwhelm, again, if it's based around time management, is your end of day planning. You want to plan your day. You want to plan the next day at the end of today. And let me tell you why. Now, I know that some people do make a practice of planning the day right when they wake up in the morning. That is possible and it's doable. But in order to have a really happy, regulated kind of state of mind, I would recommend that you give yourself at least an hour and a half to 2 hours upon waking up to get your brain into a spot where you can actually regulate and look at things clearly without becoming too overwhelmed. That bites into a big chunk of your day. And especially if you have like a morning routine where you want to exercise and meditate or do affirmations or walk the dog. So by planning your day the night before for at least 10 minutes, you can even just do a brain dump. We talked about prioritization and doing the one thing priorities. You know, maybe at the end of the day you're fried. I mean, who is it? Especially on a Friday, right? Maybe you're fried and you just don't want to think about it. You don't know what's important for Saturday, right? Or maybe even Sunday night, you spent the entire night out playing, with your family or you spent time with friends. Maybe you had a couple glasses of wine or something. I'm not gonna prioritize anything then. But if you at least do a brain dump at the end of the night, just write out everything that you want to get done for the next day, at least once you wake up the next day, you won't have to do the dump and you won't have to rush to think about what you're doing, right? So, I mean, those are the 3 tips that I have for you today to help manage overwhelm. Again, this is really only related to time management. So, again, the one thing priority, buffer time, and make your end of day plan when you're planning for the next day. If you like these tips, please give a like and comment which tip resonated with you the most, and stay tuned for the rest of those tips.